On Monday, Apple unveiled 4 new services at its Showtime event, and according to our next guest, those services could add more than $20 billion of high visibility annual revenue to the company's top line within 5 years. Joining us now to discuss is Loup Ventures managing partner Gene Munster. Gene, thanks for joining us. I want to start, before we talk about Apple's event yesterday, just quickly get some of your thoughts on the news we saw within the last couple of hours of Qualcomm winning that patent infringement case on Apple. So the sale of some iPhones may be halted, or was recommended by a judge that they be halted. This has been hanging over Apple and the two companies. They've been in court for years. Is this really something that, as an analyst of Apple, you're thinking about when looking at where this company can go over the next couple of years?
So the answer over the next couple of years is no. We don't think that this is going to have any material impact. And part of the reason is that ultimately Apple is going to start to build these chips, these same antennas, the patents that they currently license from Qualcomm. They're finding workarounds. That's why Apple's been adding so aggressively in their San Diego office, which is adjacent to where Qualcomm's at. So think of it pretty simple. As they've done this in the past, this is a tried and well-traveled playbook for Apple to vertically integrate, and they're going to do that around Qualcomm components. But it does impact how investors feel about the story in the near term. So all this uncertainty undoubtedly is going to add some multiple compression in the near term, the next potentially months, as investors try to figure out which phones are ultimately going to be blocked. And I think what is most encouraging, just to really bring it to the most important level, is that even if a lot of iPhones are blocked, in the future, Apple will not be dependent on Qualcomm. And number two is that people won't, it's unlikely that iPhone owners are going to hastily go out and upgrade to a Samsung phone if they're delayed by a few months getting a hold of the phone that they want. So big picture is it's not a concern.
Right. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Apple's event yesterday and the way that they are outlining the future of their services bundle. I mean, what are your top takeaways from what we heard from the company yesterday?
So services undoubtedly are a big part of where Apple's going. They've made 48 announcements over the last 5 years or the last 20 years. And this is the first time they had a service-focused event. And so I think if you look at the opportunity around services, undoubtedly Apple is going to be really trying to grow these 4 segments. Video is the biggest opportunity. And I'm curious what you guys think about the video offering.
Well, we want to know how much it is. I don't even understand it all.
Yeah.
I think that's my main issue, having watched everything. I just wanted them to say, like, this is what it's going to be, and I wanted to go, I'm going to cut the cord. And I still am left as a consumer not knowing what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it's probably going to be $10, maybe $15 a month, similar to pricing on other services. And I think that the most important takeaway here is they're really focusing on more wholesome content. And I think that if you look at this approach, it is unique. It is very on brand with what Apple's doing. And I think that even though they were light on some of the details that you're talking about, which has frustrated some people, it doesn't change the big story here. Services are becoming more important for Apple. They just announced 4 legs to that. And ultimately, those new aspects are different than other products out there. We can talk more about that, what's actually different about them. But I think that they're a slightly different approach to the market, approach to the content offering, approach to what they're doing around the credit offering, I think will yield this kind of $20 billion opportunity. And I want to just quickly put that $20 billion opportunity into perspective, is that would add about 8% to Apple's overall business, which any revenue growth for Apple off that huge $250 billion overall number will be welcome.
Hey, Gene, Brian Chung here. So I'm kind of curious about the difference between the way that Apple is approaching this and the way that Amazon has approached it. With Amazon, you have the Prime membership, and then through the membership, you get all these other services like video or music or whatnot. I mean, we have this announcement from Apple that these are going to be kind of a la carte services like Apple TV Plus, you know, the Apple Card also big news there, and Apple News Plus. I mean, is this a better way of approaching it given kind of the way that you see consumer trends changing around these types of companies?
Yeah, ultimately, I'm not a fan of Netflix. I think that it's a great product, but I'm not a fan of the stock. I should just be very clear about that. When I initially started to think and contemplate what the impact of an Apple offering in video was, my initial reaction was this is a great reason for Netflix to sell off. And in fact, the stock is at $160 billion market cap. The more I've thought about it, the more I'm in the camp that really what consumers want to do is unbundle their $160 per month option that most people are subject to. Consumers don't want 120 channels a month for that cost. What they really want is 6 channels, for example, at $15 per month. So kind of think about spending maybe $80 in total, but get the 6 channels you really want. And that leaves some space for multiple players out there. Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, the YouTube Red product. And I think what is most encouraging to me is in that crowded space of video streaming offerings, I think Apple's focus on kind of more quality content, content that really challenges people to be better, I think is going to be distinct in this market.
I'm kind of keying off the word you used, wholesome, there, and some of the talent that we saw come out. And I'm wondering if they need to differentiate themselves. How do they differentiate themselves from Disney Plus and Disney, which I also think of as a wholesome brand and a brand that kind of needs to toe that line a little bit?
So it was a kind of an unexpected progression yesterday at the event. I was expecting to see trailers, and what we essentially saw was pitches from some of the actors and actresses around these different series. And so we don't have a ton beyond kind of what they talked about. But I think that at the core, and I am a technology person, I'm not a media expert, but at the core, really what makes these products successful is 3 things. First is you need a great story. Second is quality production. And third, distribution. And I think Apple has clearly checked those 3 boxes around the amount that they're spending, similar to what you would see on a typical Game of Thrones episodes. The type of people who are writing and directing these stories are all iconic, and their distribution is well known. Over 1 billion monthly users. But to answer, I didn't answer your question. So what is actually different about this? What's the unique angle? And the kind of the example I would think about is in a crowded kids space around Big Bird is an iconic brand, but this other character who I didn't know, this other character, she was a coder. And I think that's a great example of something that's very Apple-like, very on brand, and kind of the future of how young people are going to be growing up. All Apple needs to do is win a few awards over the next couple of years. And at that point, I think it's off to the races.
And then maybe Big Bird will be the next CEO of Apple after Tim Cook, I guess, if he's on brand for them. All right, Gene Munster, Loup Ventures, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.